frozen account. I mean, it would be much more draconian. You could even see conventional military involvement by, who knows, to do any number of things. I won't speculate. I know exactly what would probably happen in a military sense. I mean, I spent 20 years in the military. I kind of know how they would react, but it would be...
You did like war game planning, intelligence, like a lot of that in your time in the military.
Yeah. How to take down a country. Yeah. I built those war plans with other people.
I won't ask you for specifics, but what are those events like, those meetings? I mean, what is that?
Well, they're very practical.
Arena?
Well, it's a big involved process, and you're basically looking at, well, first off, as with anything, what is the objective? What exactly do you want? And that's very important. I'll never forget that I was involved in the Kosovo conflict in the late 1990s, and I was on the war planning staff, and we were executing the war against Serbia. I believe it was a just war because of the horrible things that were happening to the Kosovars and others. But we were bombing Belgrade, and it was going on much longer than people expected. And at a certain point, we were asked during the war that we needed to finally basically take down the electrical grid in Belgrade to show that we could do that and we would do that. Well, then the question was, okay, well, how long do you want it down? We basically asked the commander, Wesley Clark at the time, through his staff, do you want it down for an hour, a day, 10 years? You tell us and we'll tell you what you need to target. That was our job. And in being in the military, you have to become very clinical and logical about these things. Now, we did everything possible to minimize civilian casualties, but we're also literally fighting a war. And so we developed alternatives. We developed the planning, which systems we would use to minimize the danger to our pilots, et cetera, et cetera. You come up with a plan and then you execute it in the chaos of war and hope that it works, which in this case it did. He basically came back and said, we want it down for 3 days. So he said, okay, then you need to do this. And we did, and it worked.
Were there experiences in this chapter of your life that were especially formative, especially difficult, failures, or really soul-searching moments?
Well, yeah, one immediately comes to mind. That's probably when I've come closest to death in my adult life. I was climbing Aconcagua in South America. It's the highest mountain in South America. And I was only a couple hundred meters from the summit, and we were not roped, and I actually fell. And I didn't just fall, I started cartwheeling down the side of the mountain, and it started a rock slide. And I ended up at the bottom of it. And I was just being mercilessly pummeled by boulders and rocks. I got a concussion. I had paralysis in my right leg. I couldn't speak. It was a really bad situation. And a storm was coming in. And there were only 3 other people on my team, and they could not evacuate me by themselves. So they literally were talking about, we may have to leave me here until the morning when they could come back with a rescue party. But they said, I don't know how that'll go. It's going to get really, really cold and we don't have a lot of gear.
You were pretty close. You were near the summit.
Yeah. 21,500 feet.
Yeah.
So, hypoxic as well, and getting really, really cold. And the issue was I could understand what they were saying. They didn't think I was really conscious, but I could clearly understand what they were saying. And that was very frightening, that I was going to be abandoned on a mountain to die.
You were barely conscious, and your team, your guide, your other climbers were discussing whether to leave you or not.
Correct. What to do. I mean, they were in danger too. That's the issue. And there were only 3 of them. And I'm a heavy guy. I'm like 180, 190 pounds, over 200 with gear. So what are you going to do with me? And they were coming to the conclusion that, well, I think we're going to have to leave him here and just come back as soon as we can tomorrow. Fortunately, a team of 4 French climbers were on the summit. They saw the accident, and then they came down and asked if they could render assistance. So the 7 of them were able to drag me down another 2,000 or 3,000 feet into an emergency shelter. And I obviously made it through, but I had physical therapy for the next 3 months, and that was tough.
Helicopter couldn't come.
No,
at that altitude.
I then had to climb down to a helicopter altitude. We were so high up. I mean, I was shuffling along, in massive pain, bleeding here and there, and just trying to get to, I think it was 17,000 feet where a helicopter could actually land.
Yeah.
But we did it.
What stage of your climbing career is this? Like, what other 7 summits, tall peaks have you climbed? What did you climb after this?
Well, I never really set out to climb the 7 summits. I just started by climbing Mount Kilimanjaro when I was 23, just because it was beautiful. And people said, you get to pretty vicious hike, but you could do it. And I did. And then I just wanted to see how much higher I could go, because I think a lot of people in the mountaineering circles, you find out really quickly, some people can go to the summit of Everest with oxygen. Some people can't. There's almost like a limiter in the human body of like how high you can go biologically. And you don't know until you actually go there. So I didn't know. So I was like, I'll keep trying to push myself. So it took me like, 15, 16 years to do the 7 summits. I wasn't all just gung ho. Oh, I'm going to do this. And now I'm going to do that. I liked climbing. I liked visiting all the different countries. And so I just methodically went after them. And then eventually, the biggest one at the end was Everest, which took 2 tries.